Hey guys, we're back and it's the last show of the year. Get excited. I don't know about y'all, but I am starting to tune out a little bit. Turn my phone on, put my phone to the side, not checking email as frequently, cooking more than working.
What
So
were
this
you
is
cooking
exciting.
this weekend? What was
We did a lot of like holiday mixes, puppy chow, holiday mix, and then getting a lot of stuff for cookies. So that's the plan today. Cookie
okay?
cutouts. What guys, what's for Christmas dinner?
Turkey with a little ham on the side for some people
Turkey
that don't.
again. Interesting.
You have to. That's kind of like if you
You
look
don't
up
have to. It's not
quick.
Thanksgiving.
You kind of do. Go to Wikipedia, look up Christmas dinner, and it says turkey. Very
Yeah,
similar
that's
to.
actually very English, and I have some relatives that are English, so that's how I know. The English tradition is turkey on Christmas Day.
I feel like prime
What do you
rib is
think that
more
Jesus
popular.
had on Christmas?
Not turkey.
Yeah, it was turkey.
Not Chinese food. I don't know what we're having because we're going to my sister-in-law's. But there's always that fine line. Do you ask like, hey, what are we having tonight, or are you just a good guest and you just like whatever, you just show up?
So we're doing ham, honey baked. It's got to be honey baked. But we did it last night because my parents are in early, so we actually celebrated last night, which was nice. Okay, guys. So this show is going to be a little different because at the end we're actually gonna. I think we teased at this on Friday. We're gonna let people come in and ask questions on camera. Be camera ready. And then we're also gonna do a fun little holiday segment between talking about news and bringing you guys in so you guys can get to know us a little better. But first, we'll talk about what we're gonna discuss today. Our agenda. We're gonna look at the 60 Minutes spike. This 60 Minutes package that was spiked yesterday. Everybody's talking about it right now on Twitter. MAGA's post-Trump future. We heard a lot about this this weekend at America Fest with Turning Points USA. And Epstein, drip, drip, drip. Some of the documents coming out, the war to try to get more information. Elise Stefanik announcing that she is going to be retiring and dropping out of the gubernatorial race. Huge news with a lot of implications. We'll go there. And then at the end, we'll talk about Democrats' challenges on healthcare with the percolation of Medicare for All starting to come up again. On the day book, there's not a ton on tap today, as you can imagine. Congress is out. The president is at the Winter White House, Mar-a-Lago. He's going to have his intelligence briefing at 3:30. At 4:30, he makes an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and the Secretary of the Navy. And this, guys, both this intelligence briefing and this announcement come as there's a lot of sort of foreign policy headlines popping over the weekend. Another Venezuela ship seized, another one tracked by the U.S. Armed Forces, the U.S. Navy. Israel is reportedly worried about Iran expending their production of ballistic missiles. Apparently, Bibi Netanyahu, who I believe is going to be talking, he's going to be visiting Mar-a-Lago in the coming days. He's going to be trying to pitch the president on going after what he views as a new threat and neutralizing it. Sean, quick question there. We shouldn't expect the president to do another bombing of Iran come election year. In an election year?
Yeah, first, going back to that 4:30 announcement, I'll just a little teaser here. I think you'll find out how much the president gives a ship. This president.
This is what we just heard 5 minutes before we came on.
Yeah, this president gives it. Just remember, this president gives a ship. He gives a ship. We should all give a ship. But that ties into our national security policy, the president's commitment to investing, making sure our industrial base is strong here at home. But as far as Venezuela goes, I get what Netanyahu's doing. I think the president was very strategic last year in how he handled Iran's nuclear facilities. And it was sort of I think it was more of a one and done. So I get Bibi sort of wanting to be like, hey, I've got another idea. Here's some other sites. But to me, this is a one and done.
Well, I think the challenge that we got to watch here is, and we always talked about this when it happened, the Israeli intelligence seems to be a little different than ours right now, which is that they both say that the nuclear facilities are being put back together faster than they thought, and that the ballistic missile assemblage is way more advanced than that for their comfort. Israel wants to go back in, and they would like our help.
By the way, Tommy on the chatter is saying that my comments and my sweater equal a dad joke. So I'm not really sure where that's coming from. I think I look particularly stylish.
Can you give us your best dad joke?
Oh boy, keep it.
Well, I was going to spend some time thinking of one over the weekend, but I was trying to go to this new movie called Constipation. It was supposed to come out this weekend, but it didn't come out yet.
Is this
Oh my God. All
try
right,
to
move
make a
on.
joke?
Move on. Just
Okay.
move on. Yep.
Let's talk about 60 Minutes. Speaking of things that were supposed to come out that didn't.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow,
the
that
big
was great.
talker.
That was
Pretty good,
I
right?
didn't even plan that. That was so good.
The big talker, guys, online right now is that yesterday or over the weekend, Barry Weiss pulled a 60 Minutes segment about the treatment of illegal immigrants that the administration sent to that Salvadorian prison. This was just 3 hours before the broadcast was sort of spiked. They put out this announcement, if we could bring up element 1, saying they need more reporting. Yeah, see, this broadcast lineup for tonight's edition of 60 Minutes has been updated. Our report inside CCOT, depending on however people pronounce it in different ways. I'm just going to say that. Will air in the future. And so that's not happening. And you have people on the left, a lot of reporters as well online, sort of melting down, saying this is self-censorship, that CBS under Barry Weiss is trying to kiss the ring. And their actual reporter who worked on this sent a note internally that has been leaked calling it political. I have a lot of thoughts on this as a former, person who worked at one of these networks as contributor, but also just legacy media in general. But first, let's go to you, Dan. Like, do you think this is corporate censorship, as people are suggesting online?
Well, it sure does have the stench of it. I think, look, some of what's being reported is that Barry Weiss wanted a Stephen Miller interview and kind of more of a counter. The story, I think, was going to frame this as how awful these illegal immigrants were or are being treated there. Okay, fine. That's a legitimate story. But I think Barry Weiss, and I would say appropriately so, wanted a counter. Okay, let's have Stephen Miller and those who think that this is an appropriate and justifiable thing. But here's the issue. This morning, the Wall Street Journal sends a story out that David Ellison and Paramount are upping their bid for Warner Brothers. David Ellison is now going to guarantee $40 billion. I would love to be able to guarantee $40 billion personally, of anything. But it is no secret that part of the Paramount play for Warner Brothers is the Ellison's connections to the current administration. They have even gone so far as to say they will not have Department of Justice review problems the way the current bid from Netflix is going to have because of their relationship. So it sure does feel like Barry Weiss and CBS is on their toes and very concerned about a president who is openly saying, I'm going to review that merger and have some say in it. So if they're not connected, I mean, there is a ton of smoke. It sure feels like there's probably fire.
Well, look, isn't this part of the reason, though, that Ellison wanted Barry Weiss here? I mean, like, the reality is that CBS, a lot of these networks, they have had a left-leaning bend. And so the point of putting her there was to reassess what's being reported, to make sure full context is given. You mentioned the thing about her wanting Stephen Miller, someone from the administration, to weigh in to give their side of things. The other bit of news was
so
that.
Do you think if Stephen's allowed, then that they would allow it?
They would allow what? Like him?
That they would run the segment.
Well, yeah, probably. Well, she says it's going to run at some point. It's just she wants more context. And then there's other things like calling it. She had issues with them calling these people migrants instead of like illegal aliens. I mean, there could be other things we don't know too. Like maybe she's seeing some of these people who are on camera and saying, "Oh, what if their credibility is shot? Like, how do we know we can trust these people?" So like there are questions. There are legitimate questions perhaps that she has. And again, this is why she was brought in at CBS. I want to say something else, and that is like, things like this suck when they happen, but in journalism, they do happen quite frequently. You will write something and it'll get, your editor's good, goes up a little higher, editor's good. And then the day before it's set to run, you hear from the big boss that, wait a second, like, why don't we explore this other angle? Does it suck? Yeah. It happens to some journalists more than others. But look, it's just part of the process, number one. And number two, if you don't like it, then leave, do independent media. The thing that gets me about this is that the journalist who was shooting, the video is out there calling it political and suggesting there's something negative and nefarious going on. I mean, we'll see if she has a job in a couple weeks, because you can't just go out there and attack your bosses and not expect to have repercussions. So anyway, Sean, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, real quick. There are a lot of stories about David Ellison, right? But there was also a story came out last week that said Ellison's claims about his relationship and his closeness with the administration are largely overblown, that he's touting himself, and yet inside, I mean, so there are counter stories that claim that he doesn't have the power that he does. Granted, every lobbyist in town is getting on one side or another this Warner Brothers buy. But so I'll just say for that, on that front, just know that that's the case. Two, I just want to go back to for the overarching thing. Politico and others are framing the story that everyone is talking about. I think if you're in journalism in DC, you probably are. No one gives a crap in Illinois or Montana or Florida. Like, the self-absorbedness that some of these folks in the media come at stories like this and say, like, and that's literally the quote, the story everyone's talking about. They're so self-absorbed with their own industry and their own selves. It's unbelievable. And this was another example of that, where it's like, no, most normal people aren't talking about whether CBS had a story or not. And then the third is just to the merits of this. And I think, Rachel, I was going to comment, you said it better than I would have. This happens all the time. You think about Amy Robach back a few years ago, caught on a hot mic talking about how ABC was burying her story and reporting on the Epstein files with Virginia Giuffre. But just even my own old show at a network, there would be times the bosses weigh in and say, hey, before we cover this story, we need to do this, this, and this, or I don't want you getting that guest on until we have. It happens all the time. And the funniest part about it is if you dig down in the reporting, the sort of even the New York Times, which is going to be very sympathetic to journalists and anti-Trump, the Michael Grinbond story has nothing. It's basically how you described it. Barry Weiss had questions about whether or not they had factually gone out and tried to get other sides of this, made it more balanced, et cetera, et cetera. That's what's supposed to happen in a normal newsroom. I get that 60 Minutes has been able to run, full steam ahead promoting one agenda. But the idea that somebody's asking them to think about the other side is what really is supposed to be at its core happening. So there's no allegations. It's funny. Everyone loves to use the word in the media without evidence when it comes to the Trump side. Well, here we go again. Without evidence, there's no signs that this is political. This is nothing more than a professional attempt to get the story right. So I just, without evidence, this is what's happening. And yet everyone in the media is jumping to a conclusion as about why it happened.
Well, I wouldn't say without evidence. Okay. In that.
All right, counselor, what's your evidence?
Do you guys believe Donald Trump when he says, I care about this merger? And sure. I'm going to have
he does. He wants to change the lineup at CNN. I mean,
right, exactly. Which is, we would all agree, totally inappropriate, but okay, it is the world that we're in. Do you believe that Donald Trump going on social media and slamming CBS, I think it was just last week, because he did not like their coverage, do you think that factors in at all to CBS's thinking, working the referees, as we like to say Trump always does?
Listen, it doesn't just factor into it. Doesn't just factor into CBS.
That's still not evidence. That's speculative. That's fine.
But
that's speculative.
Guys, you can both be right here, because
exactly that's the thing.
For a fact that every single media outlet is second guessing everything right now. Everything is getting lawyered. The people are freaking out about what the president is doing coming after me. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that spiking a story or delaying it here she doesn't have good reason for it.
And I just want to throw out one other thing. Sean, you and I were in politics for years. The Ellisons, I think total spending on the soft side last time was upwards of about 40 to 50 million. Now, it's not Elon money, right? Nowhere near. And it's not Miriam Adelson money, but it puts you in probably the top 10. In my experience, when one is that generous, their opinion matters.
I agree, but again, so just to be clear, I don't. Any of the speculation that you put forward is probably fine, but that again is in the court of law. That's called speculation.
Yeah, you're right.
And so again, I go back
in the court of politics. It's a fact.
Correct. In the punditry world, it's a fact. Anyway, I think we've beaten this horse pretty dead.
Yes, we have. Really quickly before we move on, one word answer. One word answer. Will this segment run at some point? This package?
Yes.
Dan?
Nope.
I think it'll run.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about MAGA's.
Fine run, by the way. Can that mean just online?
Maybe they just bury it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good point. Let's talk about MAGA's future. So a lot of discussion at Turning Points USA today, America Fest this weekend. Is the party going to be this sort of big tent that allows people to say whatever they want, even if other Republicans don't like it, or is there going to be some sort of litmus test? Take a listen to the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who spoke at the conference yesterday. We'll take up element 2.
You, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, make America great again because every American is invited.
Now I want you to listen to the opposite sort of take of this. Scott Jennings yesterday on CNN's State of the Union.
Personally like all this infighting myself, but on the issue of Israel and on the issue of whether we're going to platform anti-Semitism or platform Holocaust deniers, I know where I am, and that is we're a political party, not a sponge, and we don't have to soak up everything that oozes in under the door.
I should say one thing. The vice president did call Nick Fuentes, this Hitler sympathizer, a loser. He used some choice words with him in a number of interviews this weekend, but he's saying, look, it's not our job to censor people. And then you have people like Jennings right there saying, look, this is a problem for the party. Sean, like, these two things are opposites, right? Like, I'm not trying to be cute or play gotcha here.
No,
but like,
no. So
what is the answer here? What is the correct sort of balance?
Yeah. So, like, look, this is where I think a little bit more context matters, in the sense that what the vice president was coming on stage at the end of, we talked about this last week. You had Ben Shapiro kick it off, going after Bannon, Megyn Kelly, and Tucker, and then saying they were grifters and whatever. And then Bannon came on, took shots at Ben. I think the vice president's comments were more into the previous speaker, saying, guys, the way I read this was, we don't need to go after each other. This isn't a purity test. He wasn't talking about a Nick Fuentes, right? Meaning he had, as you point out in an interview on The Unheard, he had said something like, he called him some profane words and et cetera. So he's very clear on that. But I don't think by what he means is, we need to platform anti-Semitic folks.
Of course.
But he does mean that the folks like the Bannons and the Shapiros, Megyn Kelly, shouldn't be going after each other. It's not helpful to the cause, which is something I agree with. And so I do think there's a big difference. And also what Scott was saying is consistent, which is, doesn't mean you kick them out necessarily, but you don't platform them. You don't have to give Nick Fuentes or whomever, you don't give them the place to come, but it also doesn't mean that you have to like cancel everybody. I guess I'm trying to say that it's totally consistent, which is, you don't go around with the purity test, but you also don't have to platform people who say anti-Semitic things.
Yeah, I was watching the Megyn Kelly interview with her response on stage, and she went so hard after Ben Shapiro saying he's losing subscribers, everything she did for him. It was pretty brutal. But you're right. By Sunday, it was pretty clear the speakers were trying to change a tone here. Not just the vice president, Anna Paulina Luna, Florida Republican, has a close relationship with the president. So guys, let's stop, focus on the future. Benny Johnson was like, we need to focus on the left. That's right. That's where the real foe is, right?
There's a difference. What I'm fine with, if you want to have a discussion about whether we should be funding Israel or not, or whether we should have ACA extensions for 6 months or some other policy discussion, that's robust. Let's do it. Let's mix it up. But when we're just going after each other with name calling, that's where I've said this forever. I don't think it's helpful. Just going after someone saying they're not pure enough, they're not good enough. I hate this whole thing. I get a kick out of, especially in Trump world, all of these people who want to decide who's more Trump than other by when you got on the train. In politics, on either side, you need more, not less. And so if somebody decides that today they're converting over to conservatism or to signing up to the Republican Party or wants to go full MAGA, you're welcome. Jump on. I think this idea of when did you get on the train? How pure have you been? How loyal have you been? Is self-defeating. And frankly, I get a kick out of half of the people who do it got on the train 2 years ago and want to criticize everyone who got on, 5 days ago.
Well, I have to say, you may not like it. I love this. I'm joking here a little bit.
Talk about the DNC.
Yeah. I mean, look, we talked about this, a couple times last week, but I think the two things here going forward are, just as a practitioner of politics, is can JD Vance hold this together? Because Trump has shown over 10 years that like he is the father of the movement, that all these, different voices at the end of the day have historically not wanted to get on his bad side. And if they have, they've paid a price. Right now, Trump does not seem to want to weigh in. The one time he spoke to this issue, he kind of was like, well, Tucker and Nick Fuentes, like, they have their opinion. And like, he did not want to come down on it. So can JD Vance figure out between now and let's say March, can he get this, kind of back under control? The second thing that I'm watching for is who on the Republican side, with Vance kind of leaking a little bit of the like Nick Fuentes is a loser, who tries to make a play to drive the wedge further to make JD Vance uncomfortable. And when you think of people like Ted Cruz and others who don't want to let Vance kind of go, they want to primary him. I think those are the two things.
Yeah. Here's the thing that's so funny about the Vance stuff. Every time someone sort of puts him to the test, he passes.
I don't know about that recently.
So I do, because I think he has navigated brilliantly the politics of this. It's the same kind of feeling that I feel like has always dogged Trump, which is he'll never whether it's policy or politics, it's always this doubt. And I've reminded people, go look at Donald Trump's track record. He has sort of passed every hurdle and then moved on. And yet the pundits keep saying, well, the next hurdle is going to be tougher. And I think that the vice president has done a fantastic job of navigating this. And like how he handled it this weekend, he's getting plaudits. People are like, wow.
But Sean,
I was going to say, but there is, I mean, this is why Ted Cruz is getting attention, right?
I was just going to say, so Sean, go back to
maybe you're right. I think I agree with you, Sean. I do think it's not a very large, faction of the Republican Party, but clearly there are some people who wanted him to say to Tucker, not cool, don't have that guy on. And that's why Ted Cruz has an audience right now.
But Sean, and I would add to that, there have been two big moments here in the last couple months where this issue's been boiling up. Okay. I mean, the first one was when Vance spoke at that Turning Point rally in Mississippi and people were giving kind of anti-Israel, comments. And he didn't really smack it down. And it kind of started bubbling up, a little bit more and more. When the whole thing about the Nazis and that chat, remember he was like, oh, it's boys being boys. And what you started hearing were more and more of the pro-Israel voices within the Republican Party saying, dude, you got to speak up. And Ted Cruz then, to her point, jumped in. I kind of think he's actually fumbled this toward the end of the year. And it's what's giving Cruz oxygen with it. Yeah, it's in the shadows right now.
It is Ted Cruz's birthday, so happy birthday, Senator.
Oh, wow. There you go. Was it in playbook? That's the big question.
And it was also on my calendar, but yes.
All right, well, we'll have to see.
Last question about Cruz for you, Sean. I mean, I totally agree with your assessment that it's going to be Vance. Like, this is his to lose. And I just wonder, do you think Cruz is making a political miscalculation here and that he's going to end up hurting himself by, doing the shadow boxing with Vance long term?
How he does it is going to matter, but I don't think it's going to hurt him. I mean, I think, as I've said before, people who want to be president, I mean, you get your car ready, you drive it around the lap a few times, and you basically are saying, hey, coach, put me in if I need, I'm here if you need me. He's going to be willing, if the vice president says, for whatever reason, I don't want to, or I dropped out, or he has a massive fumble. Again, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Cruz wants to be in fighting shape and say, I can jump in the ring.
No vote your conscience.
No,
I think this is his last effort. I mean, if Vance were to win,
back to 2016.
But like I said, Ted Cruz has seen his own movie, so he knows how this. So it's, I think, again, doing a replay of 2016 would not be a smart move. He's young enough that I think he wants to prepare. Like, hey, I want to make sure I'm ready. I can go. So I think this is
all the comments in the chat right now are JD will run circles around Ted Cruz. Anyway, just acknowledging that. Okay, let's talk about Epstein. So the Justice Department released a bunch of documents, albeit not all the documents like they were supposed to. And the top sort of headline, well, two top headlines. The first one was that You can see just how cozy Bill Clinton was with Epstein. Huge embarrassment for Democrats on that. Pictures of him on the beach with Epstein associates, at the pool with him. Pretty embarrassing stuff. What? Sorry, say that again, Sean.
There's a hot tub photo, which I wish I could
Okay, yes.
which I want to see.
Awkward. But right now, a lot of the focus has been on lawmakers, some Republicans, mostly Democrats, saying that DOJ broke the law by not releasing all this information. You have Ro Khanna, the progressive from California, and Thomas Massie, who's obviously already a Trump critic, right? Talking about impeachment and quote, inherent contempt of
Pam Bondi's who they're
and
talking
let me just
about.
explain what that is. Inherent contempt has always been laughed at on Capitol Hill. It's things that people talk about, but they never do it. It means basically arresting someone and trying to hold them, in the Capitol somewhere until they comply with a subpoena or with a law of some sort. It's not going to happen. Dan, are Democrats going to push? They're not going to push arresting Pam Bondi. Do you think they end up pushing impeachment of her?
No, I mean, I think there will be some fringes in both parties. I mean, look, this issue, as Susie Wiles said, is a really important issue to tens of millions of people. In both, I mean, look, I have said this for a long time. Democrats are playing politics with this because we can, but it is a very important issue. And, for whatever reason, the administration says they're just trying to make sure that they're, safe and secure, protecting victims. They're not, they did not meet the deadline. And they're saying that they will kind of get this out here in due course, but that is in violation of both the letter and the spirit of the law that was passed and the president signed. So, I think Democrats will keep pushing this because Americans, tens of millions, will keep pushing this. I mean, I've always kind of laughed at this a little bit in that it's not a story that people really cared about, except in the Trump base for the last 4 or 5 years. And now it's kind of like, Democrats are, hey, we have an opportunity to cause a little mischief. We'll keep doing it.
I have wondered, though, how much the focus on the process has been sort of to distract from the Bill Clinton stuff, which is quite embarrassing.
I mean, look, it's been known for years. I mean, it's been, I've told this story publicly. I once spoke to Jeffrey Epstein when I was raising money for Mrs. Clinton. I mean, they knew each other. There's just that Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein knew each other and socialized, and he traveled on his plane. That has been out in the public record forever. I mean, again, just like Donald Trump's association.
Something about seeing the hot tub pictures is like,
yeah,
okay, it's a little personal.
It's embarrassing.
Sean, how much?
Oh, and by the way, Tim Kaine said that Bill Clinton should talk about this. Yeah. I mean, that's not. I mean, oh, by the way, like
they was not going to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but
you don't think they will?
That was her vice presidential candidate who made that statement.
Yeah. Sean, how much? I mean, it seems pretty clear that the White House intentionally released a lot of bad information for Democrats first. Yep. I'm just curious, like in this final batch, is there anything that has Republicans worried?
I don't think so, but you never know. But I don't believe that's the case, and I go back to this whole thing that I think it's going to be a big dud. Who knows?
I don't disagree, but Christmas Eve, I could see the worst thing coming.
I don't know, man. You don't fight this stuff so hard the way the administration has for no reason. Sean, you and I were in politics. You don't. There's just something that's like, man, when I see somebody trying to break arms to prevent it, and then I
disagree because I think this president, if he thinks someone's in the wrong, he's stubborn. He's going to dig in. I mean, think about like how hard he fights on every little thing. Like I just feel like he clearly doesn't like a headline. He doesn't like a headline with him and Epstein in the same, sentence. And because of that, he like didn't want this stuff to come out, didn't want to. It obviously had to have his hands forced here by Republicans who didn't want to, take a bad vote on Capitol Hill and hear from their constituents. But I just feel like the president fights. If he doesn't like a headline and something, he's going to fight so hard. That doesn't. I don't think that means there's anything nefarious
about that.
But,
maybe.
Okay, let's talk about New York because some huge news. That was Friday night, I think.
Friday afternoon.
Friday night. Rising star in the party, Elise Stefanik. I have covered her since she was just, not quite a freshman lawmaker, but when she was super early and young in Congress, gone through leadership, becoming this huge rising star in the MAGA movement. She announced Friday she's dropping out of this, race, the gubernatorial race for New York, after a longtime Trump friend, the Nassau County executive Bruce Blakeman, jumped in. And not only that, she's going to be retiring. We have talked on the show about how she has gotten screwed over so much this year, named to be ambassador to the United Nations, had to see her nomination dropped because of the slim margin in the House, even though a lot of other people would go on to leave Congress. But the big thing I'm hearing about right now with Republicans is, what does this mean for the down ballot races in New York? There are a lot of sort of centrist Republicans in difficult districts in New York. The belief, from my understanding, is that at least Stefanik does fire up the base. She can raise a ton of money. She has raised a ton of money, and that she would be a huge boon for Republicans in the state. Sean, how worried are you about down ballot races in New York, and how is this going to potentially impact the fight for the majority next year?
Zero.
Really?
Zero.
Why do you think not?
Because I mean, respectfully, I think part of this isn't. I think Elise had a very difficult decision to make, because she wasn't going to return to Congress anyway. She lost her. I mean, she gave up her leadership because she had been appointed UN ambassador.
She wanted it back, though.
She had already put her right.
In.
Wanted it back, but you can't undo an election, right? So Lisa McClain had already taken over the House. She had put her staff together. I mean, it would have, and she'd been given a chairmanship of what they call ELK, Elected Leadership Committee. Previously, Rob Portman had that position under Hasser. I mean, like, you can actually do something with that if you want. Clearly, her and Speaker Johnson are not on the best of terms. I think she made it. I mean, I think she put her house up for sale a while ago, if not sold it flat out. She's got young kids. I think there's a level of frustration that she felt and just said, this isn't worth it anymore. And the other thing is, let's also be clear. Like, go look at the latest public polling. At least she was down 19-20 on Governor Hochul. I'm not saying she couldn't have closed the gap, but this is not. I don't read the environment right now in New York. Dan, you're up there, but I don't see this as the year a Republican's going to finally topple a Democrat in New York. And so if you're her, you're going to, I want to bust my butt, raise a ton of money, go through all of this just to come up short again, when at least I could get, finish out on a high, or have some, plan my future a little bit better. So anyway, I
don't think more Republicans would have turned out to vote, just in general?
Yeah,
for her versus Bruce Blakeman.
But Lee Zeldin ran Lee Zeldin couldn't take her on.
I don't think many people thought she could win. But in terms of turnout and holding those seats, that was what was articulated to me.
But do you want to be the person? Just stop for a second and think about this. Hey, keep running for a year, bust your butt, call people, ask them for money, and just know in the back of your head, we all know you're not going to win. That's just not. Who wants to do that?
I disagree.
Who wants to raise her profile? But
I think
not if she has an ugly primary. Yeah.
Well, I think it's huge for multiple reasons. One, now you have rumors that Mike Lawler is looking again at running for governor. You could have 2 swing district seats that now come on the boards for Democrats in a year where, Sean, you say it is probably going to be a good year in New York State to be a Democrat. So we don't need to pick up a lot of seats, and we may potentially pick up 2 out in New York now.
So I would say that the Lawler piece, what you're bringing up, is the one concern I have. If Mike jumps in the race, then I think that becomes a very difficult seat to hold. He's probably the only guy right now that can hold it.
So
I was told, though, that this is why one of the reasons the president moved very quickly.
So that's what I was going to say. Yeah, and so the second thing is, I think the reason Stefanik got out was a race to the right against Blakeman was going to be a problem, because then, Sean, to your point, there's no way to win the general if you spend a year over who's more MAGA in New York, right? But we've talked about this for those who have looked at the House the last 5 or 6 years. Those seats on Long Island and up the Hudson River that Republicans have been able somehow to hold is what Democrats believe ultimately there in California. They've always argued before redistricting was where they thought they could pick up the majority this cycle. So I think for Republicans, it is a huge problem now. If Mike Lawler jumps in again, and I think if Blakeman and Trump are pushing off to the right, put your majority at risk.
I just don't understand why the president didn't endorse her. Like, we know that the administration, the president's political operation, basically asked Blakeman not to run. He decides to run anyway, right?
Yep.
But why not just endorse her? And that just, it doesn't quite clear the field if this other guy's running. And apparently he does have a pretty close relationship with the president as well.
Very
but
close.
It makes the primary not a thing. And I don't think we would be here today with her leaving. Anyway, just given all she has sort of done for the president in terms of loyalty, it just seems like a no-brainer to me, but it didn't happen. So here we are.
I do think that, to your point, Rachel, there's got to be more of this story. Like somebody, James Blair, the deputy chief of staff who handles all things politics, there's got to be something more that because to your point, she did what she did. She took one for the team multiple times. She has gotten a lot of folks on the right would go to bat for her. So Bannon has already told her to stay in and she should run for speaker.
Yeah.
So she would have had plenty of support against Blakeman. She could have raised a ton of money. There's something that's not adding up.
Okay, so one question for each of you before we get
I know what you're going to
out
ask.
of this.
I was going to ask it.
He has not said that she would not resign early. She had said her intent is to retire. Does she serve out the rest of her term?
I have heard from people I would say are close with her that they don't think she's going to do that. I mean, if you do that, like it's the end of your career, right? Like Sean, we talked about this, right?
Political career. Now, maybe not.
I think she's going to end up in the cabinet at some point. I really do. And I know the president has said this over and over again, but like she's too much of a like rising star to just totally disappear. Sean?
Like I said, there's something else going on.
That's it. I think she's out. I don't think she serves.
I am curious if she does about the endorsement.
So just to be clear, my guess is that if that's going to happen, the Georgia, where Marjorie Taylor Greene steps down, that's going to get this majority tighter. Once that seat is filled, I could see a potential for then she says, screw it, I'm out.
And when does that seat get filled? Do we know?
I thought it was like April or May.
Okay, that's interesting. Interesting theory there. Okay, yeah, because I'm sure she wasn't happy to see the endorsement a day after she drops out. It must seem like a big FU to her because she wanted that endorsement for a long time. Anyway, okay, let's move on.
Dan's point, look, that was done to keep Lawler in place more than anything. I mean, that was not a. I mean, I get why she's like, you got to be kidding me. I begged for this, I didn't get it, and then this guy gets it right off the bat. But that was probably more of a, hey, Mike Lawler, stay put, than I'm for Bruce.
Okay, let's do this last topic very quickly. A lot of talk about healthcare divisions on the Republican side. Now we're going to look at the Dem side for a bit here. Dems have this divide about whether or not to push Medicare for All. Pramila Jayapal, former CPC chair, Congressional Progressive Caucus chair, big sort of progressive leader on the Hill, talking about Medicare for All. I have thoughts on this, but I'm going to let Dan take this away because I'm sure he's not super thrilled with the discussion about Medicare for All at this
you know
point
what?
in time.
I actually don't know. Like I truly don't know. And here's the thing. So I do, all this talk about the Republican kind of struggle with this. The reality is then like, okay, if we get power, let's say we control everything, like what are we going to do? Because something is going to have to be done. So the moderates are already saying what we need to do is just, make fixes to the ACA. Here's why I'm unsure. Donald Trump is out there right now bashing the insurance companies, saying that they're making too much money, that it's not about you, it's about them and their share. That is teeing up, right? If you look at the left, this is where the Trump coalition and the Bernie Sanders coalition kind of touch, then what are you doing? Right? If you're saying the insurance market, the private insurance market is broken, it doesn't work. People cannot afford it. They've got, private jets and shareholders. Then what you're talking about is ultimately, you can give money to people, but what are they choosing? What are they doing with it? They're buying private insurance. So the question of, I am going to be really curious. Traditionally, this was a total loser because personally, I don't know how you pay for it. I mean, that's just like always the fundamental challenge. But Sean, your party right now, you're the chief executive officer, is just going after insurance companies.
Okay, good. I mean,
so what is your solution then? If it's not,
right? And I mean, that's right. So yeah, right. Again, we're really good at pointing fingers. To be honest with you, as a layman to this issue, I will tell you, I've talked to so many people who are sort of so-called experts and even doctors. I mean, just what frustrates me is, to be honest with you, it doesn't. I know the details will matter, but if you actually literally said to people, decoupled it from your employer, had private personalized insurance so that you could move, because that takes care of a lot of the problems. I think I mentioned this once before. When I asked my doctor about why certain drugs weren't covered because, long term, wouldn't it save the company money? She said to me, hey, look, here's the deal. Your insurer knows that whether you change jobs or your employer changes plans, the odds of you being on that plan in 3 to 5 years is pretty slim. So there's not an incentive for them to look out for your long-term preventative health, because their view is, we're probably not going to be that company, so we'll let someone else deal with it then. True or not, that's so to me, I think we've got to decouple it, one, from an employer, make it personalized, give everyone a medical savings account that can run over. So you get a catastrophic thing that covers you, and then allow things. If you want to personally buy something that covers X, Y, or Z, great. If you want to buy add-on insurance, great. But I think we cover people catastrophically and then give them a savings account to allow them to build. If they want to buy additional insurance, great. If they want to use stuff for out of pocket, but we need market forces, and allow those health savings accounts to roll over and over and build, be transferable down to, this is what we should be doing. But two quick things that I want to make on a political front. One is, there's a story that came out of the Hill that says Senate Democrats walked away from a potential deal to fund broad government swath of the federal government, including defense, labor, education, before Congress adjourned, right? And then there's another big story about that Sam Stein, again, for those who don't know, pretty far left reporter from the Daily Beast, he's at the Bulwark now, that Bernie Sanders killed a bill on Friday to fund pediatric cancer funding, which had bipartisan support because, quote, he wanted more leverage. Yeah. And this gets back to sort of, without, we're going to continue to have a discussion about what we need to do, and one party is going to continue to fight for leverage, as opposed to, so if we can actually figure out what we're for part, I actually think Republicans could win this debate going into 2026, but they got to get their act together.
When it comes to the Medicare for All piece, I just feel like it's an easy sort of layup for Republicans at a time when, they're already on the defense here. I mean, you add this to the bloodstream, all of a sudden you have Democrats divided. You have a lot of independents who are not comfortable with Medicare for All. It just seems like, if you want the focus to be on criticizing Republicans on healthcare and on affordability, that just keep the conversation going. As soon as you sort of talk about specifics and what you're going to do, which, sure, I understand the argument, you should do that, right? But politically, it just opens up a can.
I don't know, Rachel. I mean, look, I totally agree with you that criticizing Republicans is first and foremost, right? Because they control the government, right? So, no, I mean, it just, of course, it goes back to Mitch McConnell's famous line, right? No, we're not going to have our own agenda. We're just going to make them pay for theirs. But I do think, though, that this on the right as a working class party now with a working class base, I don't know. Healthcare is a killer for people. And Sean, you can give them some money, but boy, I don't know what the response to that Trump base is going to be on this issue. The old George W. Bush base hated it. It's the Tea Party. It's not where the political fault lines are anymore.
Well, we'll be talking a lot about healthcare next year. But let's, guys, start thinking about your questions. If you have one, just to sort of flag to people, my understanding is you have to put a comment there in the stream, and then we can pull you up to bring you in on camera. Yeah. So start thinking about that. But just before we move to questions, a very quick sort of holiday round of get to know you to sort of loosen things up here and have you guys get to know the hosts a little bit more. Favorite Christmas movie? Sean, go.
So I'm going to tell you something. You want to get to know me. Last night, we decided to sit down to watch A Wonderful Life. I've never seen the whole thing through. I've seen clips. I've seen the end a ton.
It's so sad.
And didn't get through it again. So
yeah.
I was like, mission not successful. Good question. I don't know that I have a favorite Christmas movie, although I am very, very passionate about the fact that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas time movie. And you can go at me all day long, but there's a big difference between Christmas movies and Christmas time movies.
Dan?
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
That was on yesterday.
I love
I don't
the
think
old
I've ever
Chevy
seen that,
Chases.
guys.
Oh, that's a must.
It's a must. But then I would also say, because on Christmas Day, for those who still watch cable, they always rerun all of the original Star Wars and the Godfather trilogy. And I always associate that with Christmas Day because I love those movies. And since I was a little kid, I always watch them.
Rachel, what about you?
I'm going to say Home Alone for Christmas Day, but for Christmas time, people are going to think I'm weird on this. I just feel like Christmas time is like Harry Potter. You watch all of them again, okay? Or Lethal Weapon, all of them again.
Oh, look at
Do
you.
you guys remember those movies?
Okay, yeah.
Of course.
Danny
Mel
Glover.
Gibson.
So
So can I just throw? I want to know. Do you guys have a Christmas routine? Like, do you go to? Or like, I think that there are Christmas Eve people and there are Christmas Day people.
Oh, that's it.
Like,
For mass, you're talking about for going to mass.
for everything. Do you? Some people
Yeah.
I know do presents on the Christmas Eve. Like, so Dan, are you? What is the Turrentine? Do you guys? Are you Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or a little both?
So there's a 2-part answer for that. My in-laws, the Malays, are a Christmas Eve tradition. Everyone gets together from like noon to 6 because they used to then go on Christmas Day to visit family all over the region of the Philadelphia and New York region. My family was like Christmas Eve mass, like family dinner. You could open one present, usually from like a relative, like something small. And then Christmas Day was like our big day and we'd have neighbors over and stuff. So in our now, house, we're both.
Rachel?
Yeah, I would say like we've mixed it up a lot over the years, but I definitely am a fan of doing Christmas Eve mass, and then you can sort of stay in your pajamas all day on Christmas, unless you're traveling to see family, or just travel to see family in your pajamas.
Yeah.
It's fine,
Yeah.
Sean.
Christmas Eve mass, 100%. Back when the kids were little, we did the Turrentine thing. We gave everybody got one small present. We've got that's no longer the case. But then Christmas morning is gifts, and everybody gets together, and then we have one thing that is going on. We can't pin it down. It's probably in excess of 25 years. We go duck pin bowling as an entire family. Like
That's awesome.
I'm saying, like 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
Duck pin. So that's literally going on probably beyond 25, 30 years now.
Have you ever won the family competition?
Dan, I'm not a big scorekeeper in golf or duck pin bowling.
You don't like to brag. It's the holiday season.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't just get to wear a sweater like this without being really good at duck pin bowling.
Okay.
Okay. Quick answers, guys, because then we're going to take questions. Real or fake Christmas tree? Dan, go.
Oh my God. Real, and I like to cut it down.
Sean?
What? I don't think I've ever met anyone. I mean, wow. I'm a blend. We always have to have one real one. It's a small one, but then because we bop around, there is always a fake one that just pops up too.
I'm fake all the way because I'm not cleaning up those needles, and it's falling to me if that happens. Awake or asleep for the ball drop on New Year's?
100% asleep by hours.
I'm the same, Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the last few years I've gone up to go to the bathroom and then like the ball's been dropping, so I'll like just watch it for 5 seconds and go back to bed. But
can I be honest? Just so everyone who follows me on social media, I will say that I do cheat. My daughter will stay up, take photos of like whatever's happening, and then I will post them as if I stayed up. So
our kids stay up now. Yeah. In fact, 2 years ago we yelled at them to be quiet. I mean, that was the ultimate, like, get off our lawn. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we're gonna take some questions.
Wait, hold on a second. First we have to go to X by popular request. Yep.
Oh, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring people in, and then between people, we're going to do the X by popular demand. I know people really want to talk about Georgia, and they also want to talk about Greenland. So we'll get to that. But first, let's bring someone in.
All right, there he is, Professor Kenny. All right.
Hello. Happy holidays.
Happy
what
holidays,
jersey is that,
Rachel,
Professor Kenny?
Dan and Sean. How are you? I'm wearing, by the way, Chicago Bears, even though I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Wait, but before you say anything, can we all agree that was one of the great games this year?
Yeah.
The Bears-Packers, the last 2 minutes. That was bonkers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Right. So quickly, Christmas Eve. I'm an old Rankin and Bass guy, so I love like the Little Drummer Boy and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What about songs?
Songs?
Yeah.
My favorite Christmas song of all time is "Oh Holy Night."
Mine too.
Brings me to tears.
Celine Dion?
Brings me to tears. If it's done the right way.
I'm little drummer boy. The mass, the service we used to go to in Connecticut, the 5:30 Christmas Eve family mass. The head priest would come in. They turned the lights off. The head priest would come in, and he'd be playing the drums.
Yep.
So I always remember, like, that's it. Christmas is starting now.
And I grew up poor in Brooklyn, so we would buy a real tree on New Year's Eve day because they would cut the price down. So we'd buy it for like $8 and drag it into the house with all of the, pines falling all over the rug and everything. Set up that our whole thing was Christmas Eve. Anyway, I will move on. I love all you guys.
By the way, I divide Christmas songs into two camps. You either have the sort of Christian, like the Oh Holy Nights, Joy to the World, These Three Kings, and then I've got the sort of like I love the Band-Aid song, Feed the World.
I love
and
that.
My Waitress's Christmas Wrapping is still up there. But like I think there's two separate versions of Christmas songs.
Yeah,
I agree.
Secular, so.
Don't forget Adam Sandler. Yep, they're not all the holiday. Yep.
Okay, Sean, my question is for you. I'm really upset about this Iran stuff. We need to finish the job. What do you think? I think we need to go back in there and just unleash holy hell on them and just finish them off in terms of their nuclear program. What do you think?
I think if given evidence and intelligence that we can be surgical again, I wouldn't rule it. Like, I don't think the president would rule it out. I think he is sort of caught enough heat for focusing on overseas versus domestic issues. So I think there's going to be a high bar. That's my take on this. But I do think that if he is given intelligence that, hey, we can do another strike, surgically go after a facility and the nuclear capabilities, he'll take it out.
I think the big question, Professor Kenny, because it goes to talking about the MAGA fight. If he and Israel do another huge strike, and let's say there's a problem, a U.S. plane is shot down, or, there's some response. What is the biggest source of this fight within the Republican Party? How much attention and support for Israel?
Yeah, you know what I'm learning about this whole MAGA thing on this trip we're on? Because I am a Republican, but I'm not MAGA. Is that MAGA is full of wussies. They really are.
I'm not going to watch the chat right now.
You better explain that one.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot of people ridiculous. Too that you're talking about.
Like sports. I mean, come on, give me a break. Anyway.
It also one other thing before we bid you goodbye, Professor Kennedy. Is that the White House and the administration, they very much have consciously tried to pivot away from a ton of foreign policy stuff right now. Like, my understanding is even like cabinet officials have been told to stay domestic as much as you can, try not to travel, like let's focus on domestic issues, et cetera. But I guess, if it is a national security threat, if Bibi can convince the president that this has to be done now, that could change things. I'm just really skeptical because of the midterm election.
Whose national security are you talking about there? That's going to be the issue.
Yeah, they have to articulate that. Thanks for coming on, and it's good to put a face to a name.
Yes.
By the way, we mentioned this a long time ago. I just, as a hat tip, like, if you are interested in this stuff, the national security strategy was released 2 weeks ago now. Yeah. It's up at the White House. Go read it. I think it's not long, and I actually really appreciate the way that they wrote it. I mean, it's meant to articulate the president's point of view and why he thinks what he does, regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter or not. To understand the thinking, I mean, this goes to what Professor Kenny's asking about. If you really want to know what they're thinking, who the threats are, how they think they need to be addressed, go read it. It's actually, I think it's a fascinating document.
Okay.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy holidays. Yep.
Let's bring in something from At Your Request on Twitter. Folks telling us to talk about, 2 words, elections. A lot of people talking about that in the chat as well. Who wants to take that one?
Dan, you had some thoughts on this one.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, I think, and we were talking about this before, so thank you. Several of you put this up on X, and thank you as always for all coming in. And we do want to give a shout out to the MAGA Oracle, who last week's question was about Nicki Minaj. Turned out to be pretty prescient as Erica Kirk interviewed her, and it was all over the news. So thank you for raising that last week. Look, to my knowledge, I think the big issue that's development is Fulton County agreeing to the Department of Justice's request to turn over their voter file. Now, Fulton County and the Georgia Secretary of State, I always mispronounce it, I think it's Ruffenberger, Republican, have always said, like, look, there was nothing wrong, and they're turning it over. if they prove fraud, great, let's see it. I go back to in 2020, they went 97, or they were 0 for 97 in court, proving fraud all over the country. So, these were Republican officials in the state of Georgia up until, after the election. They were all Team Trump. Afterwards, obviously, they had a difference of opinion with them. But if you have it, show it. But so far, you're 0 for 97.
Look, I think there's a lot in Georgia, so I agree with you on the Fulton County stuff, and on the I still can't believe how many, for all the discussion that we've had on elections, there's a lot of places fighting turning over the voting rolls, which I don't understand if they're public, which they are. I mean, everybody has an individual can go down and get the voter roll, so it's not hard. The idea that counties and states are fighting the administration on public data is a very interesting dynamic, and you have to wonder why when a lot of these blue places won't turn over public information.
We'll keep an eye on that one. Let's see, I'm just looking at the headlines right now. Real Clear Politics, 315,000 votes lacking sign-off counted in 2020. I mean, how much did the president win by in Georgia?
Joe Biden won by in 2024, I think 17,000 or 11,000. It was very, 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 very.
But I think there's a lot in Fulton County specifically with respect to how the ballots were or were not valid. I mean, there's a lot of still outstanding questions.
11,000. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. There's issues that need to get addressed. And I hope this administration and all the people who've talked about election integrity for the good of the country, we need to answer a lot of those questions and figure out what happened, why certain procedures weren't followed. Just get it all out there.
I will say Democrats would love if the national government were to take over elections. Just saying, it's always been Republicans who have said, no, it's a local issue.
Well, it is a local issue, but I do think the federal government has a right to oversee the federal aspect, right? You don't have, not every year is a federal election, but when there are federal elections, the government has a role to make sure that votes are being validated, the procedures are being followed, and that the integrity is strong. I've told this story.
Somewhere Al Gore is rolling over in his chair.
Well, but look, the funny part about this is I've told this story in the lead up to the 2016 election. I was hauled into DHS, then run by Obama, for a briefing because they assumed Trump was going to lose, and they said, we want to show you that all this integrity and what's going on in the disparate way in which, and so you should feel confident to go out there and say that the system was whatever. And then afterwards it became, those same people from DHS that were so clear about the integrity of the system, when Donald Trump won, they were nowhere to be found.
Let's bring in another person from the chat here. Hey there, Doug.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. Sean and Dan, it's a pleasure to see you again. And Rachel, pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Greetings from Naples, Florida, where it's a very comfortable 70 degrees and bright blue skies.
Lucky you.
Sean, if I didn't know you from Rhode Island, I would have known it as soon as you mentioned duck pin bowling. I wonder if anybody who's not from Rhode Island or Southeast Massachusetts knows that.
No, say that part again.
If you weren't from Rhode Island, as soon as you mentioned duck pin bowling, I would have known that. Who else knows what duck pin bowling is, right? I'm from Rhode Island too.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, so my question is on the 60 Minutes kill. Clearly Trump has influenced, I'll say, law firms and universities. If his administration can kill any story by just not responding, where is our free press? Okay, Sharon Alfonsi could go out and publish on her own, but 60 Minutes is a huge platform. I think that's a real concern. Sean, Dan, Rachel?
Yeah, but again, Doug, I appreciate the question. But I also, as I said when we started this conversation, there's a difference between, it's funny to me that the questions that Barry Weiss was asking that at least we know through the reporting and what she has said, and Sharon Alfonsi. So we know a couple of things. One, she said, I'd like to get some additional voices in there. If you're going to cover the administration's policies and the pushback about what's going on at CCOT, at least get them to be part of this story. Okay. Why is that a bad thing? Number two, that she asked that they refer to certain, to migrants as illegal aliens, I think is what the quote was, because that's the law. That's what they are. So I again, as Rachel noted, and I've been at a network before, so I can say that, from my personal experience, this sort of stuff happens probably every day to some extent, where a senior person at a network says, I don't want that story to go. I don't want that guest to come on until we do X, Y, and Z. Now, Doug, to your question, if the story doesn't air in 4 or 5 months, okay, I think that's a bigger thing. If they go back, they redo it, and they pop it up in January, February, okay. But none of us, all 4 of us, don't know why it didn't air, except for what's being leaked out, and nothing that's being leaked out suggests to me that there is no memo that says Barry Weiss was told by David Ellison to do this. There was no voicemail. This is just her saying, yeah, I had problems with the story. That happens every single day in newsrooms across the country.
Yeah, I would just say the same, Doug, in regards to what Sean was talking about. We just don't know enough. And it feels like it's a serious accusation to say the president killed a story when there isn't evidence to that. I mean, she clearly has a different point of view when it comes to a lot of, pieces that are going to be aired. She might have said, look, did we ask the administration for comment? They declined to comment. Well, how hard did we push? Like, should we push a little harder? Let's see if we can get more information. We don't know the backgrounds of these people that we interviewed. Like, they lied to law enforcement on X, Y, and Z. How do we need to say that in this piece to note that what they're saying here maybe is not true because they've lied before. Like, there's a lot of complicated things that go into a story like this. And so I think the automatic assumption that this had something to do with the president, it's we don't know that. Like, that could be totally and completely incorrect. And she could have very valid reasons for why she spiked this story.
Doug, I totally agree with.
Risking her. Sorry, I think risking
Doug,
her job by running. Go ahead. Sorry.
I agree with you. Look, you go back to the fact that why did ABC News and CBS and some of these people settle initially? Like, Trump knew what he was doing. Everyone is the beggar before the federal government to some extent, right? Those law firms need their security clearances to be able to represent their clients. The universities rely on some of the money for research. He knows what he's doing. So the reason it's so appalling and shocking that Trump is leaning in to personally kind of run this, and the reason we've always kept it separate, is the federal government has so much power, right? So conservatives love it right now because the power is being used by a conservative to try to break what they view as all these other things. If a Democrat used their power in this similar fashion, watch out, right? That's the problem. Once you start this, you cannot put the genie back in the bottle. And so I think it is totally inappropriate. And it's why historically our presidents have not done this.
Well, can I just real quick, 2 points? One, they did do it before. So all of these companies and corporations that bowed to the woke agenda and implemented DEI and all this stuff. Again,
most of that was done by shareholders, by the way.
Fair enough.
And that's why you had BlackRock and others out there leaning into it. It wasn't the federal government. It was money.
But it was Democratic politicians.
But I'll just say this to Doug's point. If you think about not just the track record, but go back, 51 intelligence agents officials saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation. They would suppress that, not just across mainstream legacy left-wing media, but social media platforms. We couldn't discuss that issue. The whole Russia hoax. I think if you're a journalist now and you're not like what they did over the last 10 years, perpetuating false narratives, false storying, suppressing, canceling story. It's like, to me, I can't believe people are actually shocked that some people might be doing their job, actually.
Doug, thank you.
We're going to agree to disagree.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Let's go to, at your request, another from Twitter that people want to talk about. Thoughts on Trump once again threatening Denmark about taking away their territory. Can anyone view America as an ally, or does every country now need to view USA as a potential threat? Sean, I feel like we should go to you on that one.
Yeah. By the way, it's great how this is phrased. If Denmark is attacked, if Russia is attacked, who do you think is coming to help them? The U.S. Why do you think we have a base there? Because we've been asked to come in and provide support. It's funny, like they're already admitting that we're their sugar daddy here. Like, so us, in terms of rare earth minerals, strategic location of where it is, to not have an interest in Greenland would be nuts. So he appointed them special envoy. Jeff Landry is the current governor of Louisiana, to make sure that we're keeping our eye on the prize. But I think, again, this sometimes I always think people get distracted by some of Trump's tactic versus his goal. To understand the strategic and political importance of Greenland, like geographically and in terms of its rare earth minerals, is critical. And so for us not to pay attention to them would be political malpractice by the president. I'm glad he's keeping his eye on the ball.
Oh my God. It's so ridiculous what they're doing with this. Look, it's a great question. I mean, it's the tariffs, it's everything. When you're an ally, it's a two-way relationship. And I think every time Trump kind of goes around and tries to smack people around, there are questions all over the world. In Asia, they're asking, well, if he's going to turn around and cut a trade deal with China, can we rely on the United States? Europe is talking about going their own way.
Yeah, Europe going its own way. Good luck.
Well, look, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I go back to the Godfather thing, the old adage that someday I may ask on you to do a favor. And when that day comes, the Don expects you to help. I don't know how many countries are going to be wanting to help us. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Let's take one more question. We've got one more from YouTube. Will Trump wait to endorse any representatives until the primary is over?
I think that's Republican.
I think he might mean the 2028.
Right.
I'm sorry. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
I was like, he's already endorsing. 2028. What do you think?
I think it's going to. I think it's JD's to lose, and if everyone's coalescing, Trump will get on the train quicker. It's just going to depend on where things stand in a year or so. But my guess is that he gets on board the JD train sooner rather than later.
I totally agree.
By the way, I'm watching Haley. I know you've got a question. We're out of time, but I do appreciate Haley being in the chat, and Valerie and so many of the folks that we've seen before. So as we go back to the beginning of the new year, you're all going to be brought in. Don't worry.
Yeah, we wanted to just test this out today. We wanted to try bringing people in with the technology and stuff and see how it works, see how the flow works. So as we've said here, this whole month has been about testing stuff out, getting the chemistry between the three of us. As you've noticed, kind of we've tested how we put stuff up, how we move graphics around. This has all been kind of trying to get ready. And look, once we launch on Monday, January 5th, it's going to be an iterative process, right?
Our entire data analytics team.
Yes, that's right.
Analyzing segments. We've been going
one or two people.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we've recently hired some people, so welcome, to our team, but we are going to keep iterating, and we want your feedback. If you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if there's things that you think work or don't, please keep sharing them with us. But otherwise, as we end this show this year, guys, it's been an awesome start. Excited for the new year. Hope both of you enjoy the holidays, get some rest. Rachel, I know you've been drinking from a fire hose the last couple weeks here.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for a week.
Right. If I'm not texting you at 5:30 in the morning, what are you going to do? It's going to be like withdrawal here. Maybe I'll just text you hi.
I'll miss waking up at 5 and seeing like 5 texts from Dan, who sent them at like 4:00 already.
I'm excited, right?
I don't know that Dan knows how to sleep in, but I'm going to try desperately to sleep in for a little while. By the way, just as a recap, if you want to get in on this going forward, go to the dchuddle.com, sign up. We send you the link, and then you can join via the thing we do there. So and obviously, as you've seen, we take questions off of YouTube, off of X. So like wherever you go, we can bring you in. But if you actually want to do what Professor Kenny and Doug and some others tried to do today, go to the dchuddle.com. We send you the link. You join. It's simple. It's easy.
Always be selling.
That's
all right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you. We'll be back again January 5th.
Yep. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Yes. Happy New Year. Mm-hmm.